Hey, this is going to be, I'm very thrilled to be on Carnival of Randomness. I guess I'm thrilled these days to be anywhere. And we have our long-suffering Zoomist, Patrick.
Hello.
And we're very thrilled we have, as always, in this limousine, styling and profiling, we have Chaz.
Howdy, folks.
And somewhere our guest just went somewhere. Oh. There he is. We're very, very thrilled to have my good friend, my roommate who survived those years with me, my Catwoman fetish. Bob is back with us.
Hey there. Hey, everybody. Hey, Chaz. Hey, Pat, Amelia. Great to see everybody.
You're my favorite guest already.
I love you
except
too,
for Frank
Rob.
Ashcroft, he brought coffee that like trumps it. And my other friend did art for her book, which trumps that. But you're number three. Three's good.
Okay.
I was actually have to admit, first thing, nobody else will get this but you. All I'm thinking about with the Russian stuff is I'm having weird flashbacks to John Harmon's class.
Rob, I have too much compromisat about you that I can't really get into that. It would all come out. So
yeah, okay, thanks.
We'll let that comment go. And
we'll wait afterwards. We'll wait after. But one of the things I want to just get off the bat is you have been already very creative this year, and you had something new you did in January, didn't you?
Yeah, this is a little paid promotional spam announcement. I'm lucky. I'm old. I have herpes. I just put out music like other people I know. There's not really an audience for it, but it's just therapy. I work with a lot of good musicians locally and through the magic of file sharing. And I just put out a record called ENKA, basically because I got in a fight on Discogs, the Discogs site. ENKA is a traditional Japanese form of music. It's like country and western. It's where they put all their coulda, woulda, shoulda feelings on it. And just as a joke, I tagged one of my records as being in the ENKA genre. And the Japanese are intense record collectors. And I had a fan, I believe he's Japanese, tell me that no, you can't make ENKA. You're an American. I'm like, fuck you. So I came up with a record called ENKA just to piss this guy off. It's not traditional Japanese country and western. It's just basically, I lived in Yokohama for, I think, 3 years, just trying to escape Rob and John Harmon's influence. But I was just kind of like reflecting on, it's kind of like Gringo Gaijin kind of reflections on being in Japan, and I pay people pretty well, so you don't even have to like my stuff. You can listen to the other musicians on the record, but yeah, it's on streaming. My name is Bob Gaulke, and the record is called ENKA, ENKA. Give it a listen.
We do that at the end too, and actually, if somehow we could probably play something if Pat can do it. Like we get something later afterwards.
Yeah,
if we can. I don't want to
send me a track or something. I'll just throw it on the end.
Yeah, spam over, spam done. But
okay, now for the Japanese thing too, what is really different? Like, what were your impressions of the culture there? Different from here, so on and so forth.
It's it's kind of interesting. It's pretty cultish, if I could say. I mean, they said if you want to know what it's like to be black in the American South in the 1950s, be a white man in Japan. I never had yellow fever per se, although I did develop a bad case of it when I was there. But, essentially, it's a pretty, as someone once remarked, and I might get some hate spam for this, if you thought the war ended in 1945, you've never seen a girls' volleyball practice. It's a pretty militaristic culture. They're pretty, my students felt that they're all telepathic because the social expectation in Japan is so narrow. Everybody knows where to put their chopsticks, that it's really strange, and they don't like to speak. They borrow the word from English for communication. So they say communication, Suru. Do you want to talk? I mean, it's so a loquacious jerk like myself. You go there and they bring you in the classroom kind of like a talking stock. It's like, look at the white guy talk. All right, now learn English and shut the fuck up.
Man.
That was basically it. So I went to Japan just to figure out if I wanted to teach, and then since then I've been teaching public school in New York City, in the Bronx. So yeah, did I answer your question? Probably not.
You don't have to. You can do whatever, say whatever you want.
There was a question.
I got a question for Bob.
Hey,
So you're living in some of the press, like the New York Post and some of these, I don't know, obnoxious journalists are trying to talk about New York has dialed itself back to like a crime wave New York with like, and anytime something bad happens, they throw it up on a thing, like somebody just got some feces thrown at them today or something. Well, what do you think's going on there?
Yeah,
you think
I don't know,
that's just
Chaz.
hype or what?
You're there, so you could tell us what's the view from somebody who actually lives there.
I don't think it's as bad as Rochester. I think Rochester surpassed New York as the murder capital of the East Coast, didn't it? And the homicide rate in Rochester.
You know what's bad? Actually, believe it or not, Niagara Falls is bad, and I know that because I've done work out there, and I guess they said
It's rough. Niagara Falls is rough.
As you over a barrel. Really, Niagara Falls?
Niagara Falls, New York.
Yeah, Niagara Falls,
the thing is,
yes.
When a lot of people think of Niagara Falls, they think of Canada because that's where all the nice stuff is.
Yeah, that's
the U.S. side has a better view, but everything it's always been a really, really poor town.
Well, we can talk about Rochester in the same breath. Wasn't there a ferry between Toronto and Rochester that they stopped at a certain point?
Because
it never happened.
It happened because lots of people went from Toronto to Rochester. The problem was nobody went from Toronto we went from Rochester to Toronto, but nobody came from Toronto to Rochester. So
one time
it really happened.
It
happened. Yes, it was a real thing. I knew a lot of people went on it.
Didn't last long.
Not even like it lasted 2 months.
Right, went to a Comic-Con in Toronto. So a couple of my friends, we drove. They took the ferry. We had to wait for them for almost 2 hours. And it wasn't really the ride. It was more unloading and loading was the problem. That was the big problem.
Didn't Gordon Lightfoot have a huge hit about the ferry? I don't remember. But in a more direct answer to your question, Chaz, I think it's safer than Rochester. I'm in a place. I'm the only white person there, so I'm the only gentrification that's going on here. So they think I'm like police or undercover. I'm Russian, which probably isn't the best thing to be at the moment. But no, I mean I live peacefully in my crayon-colored co-op. Come and visit.
All right. Well, you're the only one. A couple people I know still, but my daughter lived in Queens, and the couple times I visited her, I would drive in, and I'm an old man now, so I would be like, these like trucks and all the noise and the energy and wow, high energy place. So
yeah. Well, Chaz is legendary. You were in Lotus STP, weren't you? That was one of your bands.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I was actually at the reunion show at Richmond's years and years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, well, Stan tried to get me to dance with Chaz on one thing, but I didn't do it.
It's great that you say I'll take the flattering compliment, and yes, and people will say, Chaz, remember that crazy time when you did X, Y, and Z? That was hilarious, and I don't remember. But I just got. I go, yeah.
Yeah. Are you still making music?
It's really petered out, but I have a room full of guitars, and I play air guitar and I riff a little bit, but I'm not really recording or playing with anybody.
Yeah.
So
they try. I'm sure they call your name at times, and you just you don't.
I mean, you're an inspiration because I still I could probably put together a good vanity tape. It comes easy, but it's just I haven't been doing it. And as far as gigging out and coming home at 4 a.m. smelling like cigarettes or whatever, I don't know if those days are behind me. I think probably.
Well, we got all of us. We got a guy in Portland onto this idea of Rochester music. Did Steve Lippincott ever contact you, Chad?
Absolutely.
You guys should have him on the show.
I visited Portland. When I visited Portland, I went out to visit, and Steve treated me like a king, and he took me around to like a fancy places to eat brunch and stuff. It was almost like being gay for a day, and neither of us are gay, but you know what I mean. It was nice. It was like bromance stuff.
Yeah, I think Eric and Jim befriended this guy, this real music head in Portland. He just kind of fixated on Rochester. He got into the whole lore. So it would be kind of interesting. I'll connect you with him, guys, if you want to talk to somebody.
I'm all
like
you're part of. You're like in the movie Freaks. You're one of us now, if you like it or not. So
we
accept you.
Steve's a really good guy, and he's also an expert on Australian punk music too.
Yeah,
because he's from Australia.
I want to ask. I never asked my friend Caitlin, and I talked to her a lot. We've had her on the show, but she lives in Portland now, and I keep forgetting to ask her opinion because you said to me a lot. It's like Rochester squared. It's basically
it's Earth 2 Rochester. It's like the Gene Roddenberry version of Rochester. They even have like a Xerox tower lookalike building. But then something happened where Portland has doubled in size. It's now bigger than Seattle, while Rochester is it blooming or dying? I don't know.
It's.
I love talking about Rochester.
I love it. I love this perspective about it too, and everything. It's like this is like one of those cities that has. I think we need an author just to write stories about the city, like a Lake Wobegon or something.
It could fall to you guys,
Yeah, you'll see those clickbait lists pop up as well. We'll say like Rochester's one of the best places to live. Rochester's one of the worst places to live. It all depends on your perspective and where you live. Yeah,
my honest view on that is you find your place wherever you live and you like. That's great. Somebody else might hate it. Somebody else might not. Somebody might like the big city. Somebody might like rural. There are people who like Mississippi, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I was in a prisoner exchange with Savvy Kulkarni, who came from the Bronx and now lives in Rochester, and I went in the other direction. Have you guys had him on the show?
No. You got to give me a list of some people.
Yeah, you guys know Savvy, right? He writes for I think the Democrat Chronicles. That's still around. He's a music rock writer, and he loves Rochester. And
Well, one of the
There's
things,
only one
neither
music
Pat
writer
or I
in
have been
Rochester.
caught in the prison exchange to go to Brooklyn or anything yet. We're still holding out, but if they call our names, we'll see you down there.
Yeah.
And everything else. One thing, talking about Japanese music, we have one connection on the podcast. We've had Leah O on here. She's a pipa player. She's actually, oops, I botched that one up because she's Chinese.
Rob.
Yeah,
Rob.
whoops. Way to go.
But if you heard pipa, it just flashed. It's like, okay, this is somebody you've had with had like different music. It had no politics to do with it. It's just I was thinking of the rare person we had who played like world music on.
Yeah. Well, hit me to it. I'd be happy to hear it. How are you guys? How is everyone managing there with World War III? What's going on in?
Holy shit!
Central?
Oh boy, do we want to get into this?
No, not really.
I mean, I think I have probably safe to say we're all of similar opinion on the subject. I
think all the world is. Yeah.
Yeah. Except for one person. Who? Two if you count his little buddy, his little orange buddy here, but people that matter.
Yeah.
I just read that Putin is sending out mercenaries from Africa to try to kill off the leadership in how do you say it, Kharkiv or whatever.
Oh,
it's so the world has become a James Patterson novel overnight.
Yeah. I don't know. I just saw a very brief thing about Switzerland ending its neutrality over this.
No, they froze their bank accounts. They froze the Russian bank accounts.
Yeah.
There.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, they did.
I thought they just they also banned Taylor Swift music from the Russians. They shut down the Swift.
That might do.
Who knows? That might do the trick. People really like her.
That's it. The company's gonna fall. Right?
I don't know. People really like her. Look, all kinds of wacky things. The whole story about how Al Qaeda wanted to kidnap Russell Crowe because that would really cripple the American to really just destroy morality because he's an Australian actor.
I wonder if Sean Penn got out safely. That jackass, because he was over there a week ago.
Still there.
He has the best of intentions, but he is also just has an ego as big as the great outdoors.
So actually,
that is utterly humorless.
Just to be lighter, how did you actually start getting into all the world music and everything? Because as long as I've known you, you're always playing it. And what I like how you do things. You always veer to these different things. It's like that creative, artistic, wandering spirit where you just go try to do all these different things that are off the map.
Well, thanks, Rob. That's very kind of you to say. I don't know why. It's probably to me, probably my mother, because my mother was Iranian. That to me, music was always some kind of cultural exploration thing, you know. And when you're mixed, when you're like a mixed heritage, you're always looking for the third country where you belong. I thought I was French when I met you, 30 years ago, and and then like maybe I'm Brazilian,
Well, I know you used to play a lot of French music. That's where I got into French music and everything. Plus, I would say, and again, everybody has their opinion, but in terms of like foreign film, France has to be up there, except for the Jerry Lewis thing.
Well, I mean, some people think of like France as one of the centers of Western culture, but I probably because of my mom, you're kind of like at home with this idea that there is something out there that you don't really understand. Because I never learned Farsi. I only went to Iran when I was like very young and stuff. So there's always this idea that there could be something outside of Rochester, but probably not.
No. I would say no. There's nothing outside of Rochester. We just imagine this is the only we're imagining the rest of the world. We're like in a snow globe here, and this is the world.
I know. I constantly. I'm sure, Chaz, you ever have dreams of Rochester? It's pretty big in my imagination.
Well, I'm still tight with Rob and my friend Stan. Stan the man, and
of course
he wants me to move back, but I don't know. I miss garbage plates. I miss the. I mean, there is a Rochester personality. It's quite nice. A lot of the people are just. It's different from Southern nice, but it's very nice. But and I don't know. I don't bash it too hard, but I don't think I don't know where I'd end up right now. I'm in Boston now, and it's all crusty snow, and it's 17 degrees, and this sucks too. Maybe I want to go down south or something. I don't know. So. But don't know.
There's a question I want to ask, actually, Bob, Pat, Chaz, everybody but me. I've been really thinking about the idea of performing in art and so on. Is it important when you're performing to connect to the audience? Or you just hope there's people there that'll get it and do it for yourself because you have just an urge to create, or do you really need that feedback? Probably for you more, Pat, because you do more stage. I mean, Bob, you have done theater and stuff. I know you did plays.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that level of performing arts obviously is, connecting with the audience is a big part of it. You want to make sure that whatever your role is, you're conveying, something to the audience that they can do something with, either laugh or think or, whatever. So, yeah.
Well, Rob, did you say, I hear you say you wanted to maybe gig out or something like that as a musician?
Oh, no, I'm more like a behind the scenes person. I'm actually starting now, and I can say it now. Some of my friends have taken over, like booking at the Riviera Theater in Geneseo, and I've been, actually, if you're in town, Bob, I'll put you down for that.
Sure.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
Now, we just opened, and they just opened in May. We're still trying to get out the ticket idea, set up everything else. We're trying to bring bands in and everything. But it's really good because I can treat the musicians right. We can expose people to a whole different thing. And Pat, you'll be surprised. Andy somehow got a gig there the first month.
Well, there's a shock. Did he have some kind of in at the venue?
No, I was stunned, but it was like the first person who got in. But it's just something.
They'll just let anybody in there.
It takes me for another level in terms of like what I've been trying to do, like with the podcast, what I've always trying to do in terms of promoting like local music and arts. And I always, one of my sayings is always, okay, you know what you know, try what you don't know. You might like, and I've always liked, like, obviously, like our friend Mario, some of the plays they do where it's not the stuff you would expect. It's something different. Some maybe like, I think it was an Iliescu play, and I'm going to pronounce it wrong. He's done those. He's done all kinds of different things. And I think it's trying to there's so much stuff out there that people aren't exposed to. And if you just open your mind and try it, if you don't like it, you don't like it.
Yeah, I think we, probably the timeline of the Russian version of Romeo and Juliet we did. It's probably good that we did that a few years back, and that was
Yeah, what
going
was her
on
name?
now.
Was it Rosina and Jeanette? I always pronounced it wrong.
Oh, is it Ruslana and Yelena?
Thank you. I always pronounce the one Jello.
Yeah, well,
I
Rob,
tried.
I think that's really admirable, and why not do it? I mean, maybe it's something about mortality. I don't have kids, and so you just kind of want to mark your time on the earth. Maybe we're like worker bees in a way. I mean, I take care of these motherfucking kids all day long. So I go
yeah,
home, I
you
do
get
my
your
art,
fill.
but maybe it's just to mark our time here on earth. Maybe it's narcissism. I don't know. My parents always gave me too much encouragement as a kid, and I kind of get that. I mean, teaching is very performative. And I kind of got over my fear a while back. I don't know why,
I
but
think if you're not afraid of failing, everything's possible if you don't care about
yeah,
failing. And I think,
yeah.
too, both of us, we grew up on the 66 Batman show, so that's why we were morally upstanding people.
So, hey, Bob, what kind of kids do you teach? Like is it a city public school or what
Yeah,
is it?
yeah. I'm kind of paying my comfortable upper middle class '70s Penfield lifestyle back. I work in the Tremont neighborhood in the Bronx. It's probably the poorest neighborhood in urban America. My kids are seventh grade. No one wants to teach those motherfuckers. Pardon my
Hmm.
French. They have like autism. They have like ADHD out the ass. And I'm just basically like foster dad until 2 o'clock. And I'm ostensibly ESL, or it's called ENL now. They're always rebranding it to sell new textbooks. But New York State says if you speak the language other than English at home, you get extra classes until you're speaking at a native level. But the catch is if you're in a poor community, maybe your parents don't read either. So there are kids who are perfectly acclimated, acculturated to New York, but they don't fucking read, So what do? I buy them Batman 66 comics. I try to get them hooked up on a Julie Newmar fetish. I try to do my part, Rob. But it's just weird, because if you can't read, there's this whole theory about that. It's like this Nietzschean will to power thing. You're going to be playing video games. Why the fuck would you want to read a book if you can like kill hundreds of zombies? So
I
it's
don't
a
think
very
we get that because we come from our own perspectives and we all like read a lot of books and read, and we don't think about like how that would affect you if you can't.
well. You look at the stats. Very few Americans read a book. It's very sad.
Yeah, isn't it like
Everything.
6% of the population reads like 90% of the books or
You
something?
know, I'm going to shut up in a second, but Rob, it's like my students always ask me, Mister, are you gay? And it's like, I should just say, yeah, I am gay because
Who
everything
cares?
I enjoy, they don't like. They could give a fuck about art, music, theater, dance. And I guess part of my job is to expose them to that. But most Americans could give a fuck about, banned books in a library or records or everything that we care about here in this show. Most people don't care about.
Again, I
Well,
don't get the
unless
idea.
it's something that personally affects them, then they get up in arms about it. Other than that, they can give a shit, which is sad.
No, and I used to like the banned book column because it would know what I want to go to and read.
Yeah.
And some of them I
Yeah,
don't get. I mean,
there are. Yeah,
I get the crazy, like extreme, religious types, everything else. I can get some of the books, even though I don't. But some, why do they even want to ban the things? It's like nothing. They should have banned Ulysses before I read it, so I didn't suffer for 3 weeks. But that's a personal thing. I chose to read it.
I think Chaz can speak to it. Chaz, you're a librarian by trade, aren't you?
Yeah, but you know what? I sort of took an early retirement of that. It's a complicated. Nothing terrible happened, but I actually was. My best librarian job was a digital librarian down in Baltimore at the Loyola uh, College, and then I was there about 14 years, and then they got a new director. I wasn't in as tight with the director, and it wasn't bad, but it was like time to move on. And so I was a contract librarian in DC, and then I wanted to get out of that because it was just a government contractor, and I didn't feel secure. So I came up here and worked at a software company that caters to libraries, and quickly I lasted about 3 years. It was like programming. It was like actually software development, and I was like, I'm in too deep with this. And then I got a job at a little public library here. It wasn't really, I don't know. I was beginning to become not really a great fit. It was a lot of like woke millennial stuff, and nothing against that. It's just, that's just not me. So, as a professional. So, now I'm doing, working at an elementary school as a tech guy and a security guard. Wow. So that's my little career.
Is it sort of like Fanny Farmer, like what they would say you would go in and they'd give you all the chocolate you want. So by 2 weeks you were sick of it and never wanted to sit again. Did like you go in and you see all those books so you never want to read again?
I don't know. I mean, my thing is to do information provision and make it efficient and web stuff and everything. But there, in the public libraries, it's really a lot of it's activism, and God bless them. I'm not against it. It's just not one of my skill sets. I'm more of a techie.
Well, so, I found the one thing I saw, like they had the one thing at the library about all like the top 20 books, and I like read tons, and I still read tons. The top 20 authors, never read one thing by any of them. My tastes were a little different.
Yeah.
We're reading like Thomas Pynchon about that book where the guy gets the Woody whenever there's a bombing or something.
That was Gravity's Rainbow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
John Barth a lot. I like John Barth a lot. And the thing about John Barth, you either get him or you don't, like the Sot Weed Factory, because he's so over the top satirical. You either get him or you're like, what is this stuff?
I got a copy of Crying of Lot 49 sitting right next to me here, and I'm trying to, I don't know if I have the patience to really, it's Pynchon, to really dig everything out of it, but fascinating guy. The theme of this book is like, it's kind of like communication theory, and it was written in the 60s, but it was like an alternate post office, and people are putting letters into trash cans, and they're really mailboxes if you're part of the secret society, and it's kind of crazy. It's crazy stuff, but he's a difficult guy.
Yeah, anybody read Neil Stephenson at all? Like, I like Snow Crash. The idea there's a guy, it's like a future world dystopia trope there, where there's a guy delivering pizzas with a samurai sword because people are trying to attack him delivering the pizzas and everything.
Yeah. I'd not heard of him.
Never heard of Neil Stephenson? I'm sort of surprised it's called Snow Crash, but he's like sort of one of these techno, odd, politically weird, undefinable characters. But one thing, we'll talk a little bit more levity because we've been going on this. How about I love having you on, especially because not many guests we have on really have an interest in foreign movies, or at least we don't talk about them. What have you seen lately in terms of foreign films or going?
Was that Nate? I've been watching this actor, this Belgian actor who's kind of like the Belgian. He's kind of our generation. And he's a mix of George C. Scott and Robin Williams. Maybe you guys have seen his films. Benoit Poulvard. He was in a film called Man Bites Dog in the 90s. It came out, and I saw that at the time. I'm sure you guys did too. But he's just such a character. And again, he has the charisma of a George C. Scott, Robin Williams. I've watched everything he's done, like shitty movies, funny movies. I would just recommend that you look at some of this guy's work, because I saw the film back in the day, and it was very dark and black, and a lot of his films have that black humor. So any film with Benoit Poulvard is worth seeing, in my view.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we can't pull off in America because we can't get the way they do it. There's a series, the BBC series, One Foot in the Grave. There's no way they'd be able to do the combination of comedies and dark humor here and get it right. It would have to be more upbeat, and I have Pasolini's life cycle that I have to watch. It is the Decameron, Arabian Nights, and something else. Yeah. And I guess it's completely different from his dark stuff like Sodom, which is horrifying.
Yeah, I'm sure Chaz has had enough. I kind of still like glorify and valorize libraries. Just for, the libraries were like the internet for our generation, and not just sound like cranky old men. But just that freedom and the space that libraries provided, and I didn't realize in the last few years in public schools they've been removing libraries because they say, well, kids have these, they don't need them. And I thought it was just a poor school thing. It's not, and it's just a sad thing that we just don't really. I feel like we don't want kids to really think for themselves, and libraries provide that space. I mean, for kids, if you hate school, which I still do, even though I'm a teacher, your only time out is going to the bathroom. The bathroom is like Studio 54 in our school, where you just want to get the fuck out of the classroom. That sucks. And it's sad. And the library used to be that space where you could just be left the fuck alone. And, find a Richard Brautigan book, which is cool, or Charles Bukowski, because it's easy to read, and they're just, the fuckers are like sealing that off from kids. And I think that's dangerous, Sorry.
Yeah, it's funny because I went to Nazareth College, speaking of Rochester, and used to love to hang out in their library. And it was cool, and it was old fashioned. And then I think at one point I saw, in some ways librarianship is sort of a matriarchal thing. At least it's stereotyped that way. But I saw a male librarian, nerdy guy, and he looked happy. I'm like, hey, that might not be a bad gig to do. You don't have like plaster falling in on your head from working construction. It's fairly safe, warm, So yeah, good deal.
Yeah, my brother Eric Gregory is a librarian as well, and Portland has the second largest library system in America after New York, and both him and his partner are librarians. And it's like adult daycare. Sadly, there's huge problems with houseless people, as the PC phrase is, and the libraries there is adult daycare. I'm sure
it is. And here in Boston, they actually it's politicized, by the way, but they have like Narcan in their desk drawers for times when they need it. It's crazy. Yeah.
Well, one thing I really liked about our crazy days in DC was actually DuPont Circle and all the bookstores, and going down and just spending the day crashing through the bookstores. We missed Patrick McNee doing his signing of his book by a day. Diana Rigg, bless her, she passed away, and she's like, oh, Diana. But those were just great. You never knew what you could find there either. That was the fun part of the search, where now you get off here, go onto some used book site, and I can get just about anything. But then you never knew what you were going to find. I got a copy of The Massacre of Margarita there. I got a whole bunch of other cool things. You just say, wow, they have it, yay.
Yeah, maybe for kids, what's different for them is they're able to do this really deep dives into obscure things, and they can pull up so much information. And I think, if you're 13 or 16 or whatever, it's probably fascinating, probably dangerous at the same time, but hey, that's why it's fascinating, right?
Yeah, but the thing too is, maybe, I don't know if this happened with any of you, you can answer this, but like when we grew up with records and they were cheap, you get them like, what, $1.99 a day? We would a lot of times you rely on your friends, but a lot of times what we would do is, if it was a cool album cover, we'd try it. You never knew what you're going to get then sometimes. So I got an Atomic Rooster album because the cover was cool.
Yeah, I think, I think kids are still finding stuff, and I think, not to sound too much like a group of old men, but there's something like very resilient about the music of our era, and the kids can hear it. I remember I had a 12-year-old Dominican kid come up to me 12 years ago, Mister, do you like the Doors? There's just something that's very lasting about humans playing music in real time together. And I think your brain can hear that. I hear a drum loop and my brain automatically just tunes it out because there's no interaction going on. So
we do have a big group of bands that I'm friends with here who are in their 30s, even in their 20s. And they're, what I hate the word, but I'll use it, old school. Yeah, they go for all the old music. They're like my friend Alex Cote. He could tell you everything about Neil Young in the early 70s. And they all have that influence to them. And it's maybe because if something's good, it's going to stay good. That's why, again, the Beatles are still all over the place now.
Yeah, I think it's something you're alluding to with your desire to do theater. We have something primal, like being around the fire and seeing other people. We want that. We're mammals. We want to have that interaction. So whether it's live music or live theater, that's, I think, a basic human need,
Well, how did we find a lot of our friends? How did a certain percentage of my friends going to shows, you would see the same people and you felt like you were accepted because it wasn't going to like the big Eagles cover band or the shows at the War Memorial. It was like, okay, somebody who dug, you'd see somebody with a t-shirt of like a local band go, oh, I know them. And like anybody else you walk around, probably 1 out of 100 would recognize it. You just like think there's like, we want to make connections. It's like our stuff immediately with Batman and comic books and stuff and the Avengers.
Yeah.
You actually rented rooms at Nazareth to watch Avengers DVDs. I remember that to this day.
No, it is funny, and I think
the statute of limitations is up on that. Don't worry.
All right, I think I cursed too much in our last podcast, but if anyone
you can curse all you want on here, we welcome it.
If anyone under 60 is listening, you have no idea the social price we paid by being sci-fi comic book geeks.
No, the big one for me, this was in grade school. Okay, so the grade school. They asked what the favorite television show was. So we go around the room. It's like Happy Days. There's some show, the San Pedro Beachfront. They get to me. What's your favorite show? Star Trek. And the group looked at me.
Yeah, no, I mean, you would just, when I went to the early science fiction cons in Rochester in 1979, 1980, 81, you would not see anyone more beautiful than, Fat Albert in a dress. I mean, it was just, there were no women whatsoever going to these things. And now it's like cosplay city on Instagram. We would have killed if there were cute girls doing this 40 years ago, People probably still kill today. That's why they're serial killers.
I was young and okay for you when you were growing up, and everybody can answer this if they want. I was like the big comic book collector. I was into the sci-fi, everything. I would say out of the people I went to school with, probably just me. I don't think
you were not cool. We're talking the highest level of social ostracism possible.
Yes, that was.
The highest form of social ostracism was when they would say and see you afterwards. Go, oh, you were smart. That was like the biggest put down from like grade school they could ever give you.
Not anymore. Not since Bill Gates is like in every centerfold. But
Revenge of the nerds.
Yeah, I can pinpoint the exact moment where I knew it wasn't cool. Was talking to my 7th grade art teacher who also liked building model trucks, and the class was mostly girls, and they completely mocked both of us. And I turned deeper shades of red, and I thought, if I'm ever going to have a girlfriend, I can't talk about this, But again, nerd culture is dominant. Nerd culture took over.
You want to hear my most embarrassing gender mix-up thing happened when I was about, I think in like first grade.
Go on.
This is only 30 seconds, but one of my grandmothers died, and she had a beautiful Japanese silk jacket with like a little rope buttons and stuff. And it reminded me of Sergeant Pepper because they had those shiny silk jackets on, and they were like, it was like neon color too. And it was a woman's Japanese jacket, but I thought it was like Sergeant Pepper, man. So I thought, I'm going to be cool today. I'm going to wear it to school. Well, talk about getting slammed into your locker and getting a wedgie on the fence. I was praying for the day to end so I could go home. It was humiliating.
That was my thing. It's like before then I was like, oh, please let that really cute comic book artist and writer exist for me. They have to be out there somewhere. And when we were younger, I don't think we ever thought of that though. But who knows? But what have you been reading anything really from comics, or you just sort of? I just do graphic. I follow my one friend's books. Otherwise, I'm just sort of not into it that much. But Bob, you've been reading any new stuff?
I buy comics all the time for my students. I did a master's thesis on the use of comics in the classroom. So I just I look over my shoulder, and I got to say the quality of artwork is 10 times better than it was when I was 16. I mean,
partly too, it's because of the higher. My friends said like people were complaining about price. It's like, look, we got to eat, we got to make a living, and it's quality. I think maybe too they use a lot more quality paper and stock too these days than they did before.
Yeah, I think. I try to get my students on Comixology, which is you pay a monthly flat fee and you have access to a lot of stuff. My students are really into manga. They typically ask me for the manga of existing anime series, and that's one way to hook kids on reading. I'm too busy to read the stuff myself. But it's weird. I always check in on the comic book sites to see what's going on, and it's fascinating to watch how this culture is just so ascendant. I mean, you could not be more mainstream than say on a Tinder profile that you like Marvel movies. It's pretty much acceptable.
Well, we're probably going to do a show on the Batman when it comes up. We have to see it obviously first. Do you have any thoughts on that though? The new Batman movie? Any thoughts on it or not? Or you care? Bob, you're the guest.
Yeah, you're the guest.
Oh, Chaz is a regular. I didn't know. Okay, wow.
Yeah, he's like, well, you are too, sort of. You could join in and be a regular.
You've been on twice now, so now you're a regular.
I haven't screwed up bad enough yet, so.
Not yet.
I don't know. I got a Disney Plus subscription with my phone, and I don't know. I mean, they're kind of all kind of samey to me. There was a team that made the Captain Marvel film who made an earlier film called Sugar that I've shown my students. It's a really beautiful film about Dominican kids playing baseball in the U.S. It was on HBO, and the same team made Captain Marvel, so I had a high expectation for it, and it felt, I don't know, they all feel kind of samey to me, and to be honest. I mean,
you are a Marvel fan. You are also like a Marvel zombie. Like,
yeah, I mean, a Marvel fan, and it's just, I'd love to see something really kind of interesting, but it just
I think Secret Invasion I'm holding out. I think Secret Invasion might be interesting. I think it really might be good.
It's too much Deus Ex Machina, or however we pronounce it, that, you can blow a hole through shit. So, I don't know. I tend to stick with, my French comedies or something like that. But I mean, I'm still curious. You're still always 13 years old. So, I look at it, and Black Widow was always my favorite character. I'm not a big fan of Scarlett Johansson. She's just like too short for the role. So that was a disappointment for me or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you keep that 13-year-old busy as well, Yeah.
Well,
what was this movie? I love it. And I think I have Alzheimer's because I can't. It was about 10 years ago, and it was kids as superheroes, and it was kind of really dark. What was that? It was kids.
Well, there was New Mutants, but that was like a couple years ago.
You're going to have to be more specific.
I know what you're talking about. It's like super violent, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Kick-Ass, wasn't it?
Kick-Ass.
Kick-Ass.
Yes. Yeah. That was just Mark Miller, wasn't it?
Mark Millar. He tends to write violent stuff.
And it was a limited series or graphic novel he did, and they did a sequel to it, which I still haven't seen because it was not well received. And then it had the added thing of Jim Carrey being in it, playing a violent guy who shoots people, and then having a come to Jesus thing about guns, and then kind of trashing the movie when he's supposed to be doing publicity for it, which I understood, but at the same time it's like, dude, that's kind of shitting where you eat. It just
I just saw Wonder Woman 1984, and I do agree with most people on that. It was a mess.
It was.
And the thing is, but again, like, don't criticize like Patty Jenkins and them. The Babe Ruth struck out before. Sometimes you can do a lot of good things. You just make one that drops the ball.
Well,
so just go from there.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty widely, known that it just male directors can have to have 5 or 6 bombs before they get written off. Female directors get one, for the most part, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, well, she that Rogue Squadron went away, and just like. You can look at everything else she's done and say it's good, but you have one turd and all of a sudden it's over. So it's just
one thing. I think, Bob, probably you too. We owe a lot of for me, I owe a lot of the foreign movies to the Little, because ever since we were teenagers and stuff, that's where they would find these things and then go down and see them in the old art house movies, and the Eastman too as well.
Yeah, we're sounding like a bunch of old men, but it's really hard to understand what life was like before the internet. You had such limited access to stuff. And the Rundell Library was our internet. I'd go down there to read NME and Melody Maker and see what's going on. The information was at such a premium.
I used to read Village Voice. I used to curl up with a Village Voice and read the Christgau record reviews.
Yeah, I love that. exactly. Yeah, the Village Voice as well. Peter Hamill and Nat Hentoff, and what a quality paper that was throughout, through the
Well, I
80s.
used to go to Worldwide News, was one of my havens every
Oh,
summer.
hell yeah.
They would take you to Worldwide News, and I'd be getting all the music
Yeah.
magazines and my National Lampoons and Mads and Heavy Metals.
Yeah.
And all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
still
and it's a different
very
world.
nice.
It's a different world. But what I think what you kind of alluded to is people still need community and kinds of community. So, record shops and comic shops, they had that function. And, my students too they're preferring to have something tactile in front of them than reading from a screen, but it does beg the question. I mean, how much stuff do you need to buy? And I'm sure your houses are like my place where, it's getting a bit like my sarcophagus here. I just have stacks of unopened box sets and stuff.
It's like the Addams Family mansion here meets Lemmy's apartment over at the house at the moment. But
yeah, it's sick.
But it is. You're so right about community, because I remember Empire Comics was probably the longest relationship I ever had, because I was there for like 25 years. And even though you were used to seasonally seeing different people, and it was awesome, though. It was just like this weird little community. We could talk about all the stuff like we do on here. And
are they still around?
He passed away about 10 years ago, and actually,
they were fucking evil, man. That place was so fucking expensive. Oh my god!
I'm not going to argue with you on that one. I'm not going to argue.
That was so fucking evil. You had that in the House of Guitars, and you're kind of scared of Armin, but we would never step into Empire. Our friends created a circle called the Rebel Alliance. At the same time, we tried to fight Empire. They were just so fucking evil, man.
But you're
Sorry,
right.
I had to
somebody wrote a review of it, called it the Evil Empire, and I'm not going to disagree with that at all, because their back issues were insane.
Yeah. No, it's good, and I think comic collecting was a good preparation for record collecting, because you got used to the whole kind of culture and everything, so you're ready to jump into records. After
even foreign movies now, actually there was something, it's not a foreign movie, but it's piqued my interest. I was at the Little, my friend Katie Morey played the other week. There's a movie called Strawberry Mansion, and I took a look at it. It looks interesting. I can't say much else about it. I don't know, but it looked like, it was this is Terry Gilliam, isn't it? And it's not, but it just looks interesting. Look it up. You know anything about it? Anybody know anything about it?
Were you dreaming this, or does it really exist?
Yeah, I looked it up.
It's a movie called Strawberry Mansion. And it's a
I
guy
don't believe him.
An old woman.
I think he was
sounds
just
like an
dreaming.
Alan Moore adult pedophile thing.
Right.
You have the best way with words of any guest we've ever had.
What the fuck, Rob?
Pat's gonna. Oh man, you're freaking everybody out, Bob.
Sorry, I'm a little too Bronx, man.
That's always good. You stir things
Pat's
up.
you said the F word, and now we're gonna disinvite you, man. PC police.
No. Actually, what have you done Pat does, he's done theater. He'll probably be back in theater again.
Yeah, we'll see.
But, eventually. But what are some of your more memorable things you've done in theater? I know you've done your little one-man stuff. I've been to years ago, but my mind's fogged out about it. In terms of some of your shows you've done, or some of your things you've done for theater, or you.
Bob.
Yeah, you.
Oh, yeah.
You're the guest, damn it.
All right. We did two pieces in Portland. Portland has really easy logistics like Rochester did, and I found putting on a rock theater piece is just slightly more complicated than doing a band. It's like organizing 10 people instead of 3 people. So we did something in 1993 or 94 called Marcia Tape Specialist, and it was kind of temp work was new. It was kind of right before, what was that daily strip? Dilbert. It was before Dilbert came out, but it was the same kind of mentality where we had this really radical lefty woman who was just so cut down by doing temp work that she just sells out in this really weird way and just is so happy to get full-time status with benefits. And we did a kind of a Rube Goldberg dystopic stage setup where we had on stage, we had 10 people, and some of them were musicians, and they were in a document, because I was working at a lease claims kind of place at the same time. So we created this Rube Goldberg thing where we had documents coming out in tennis ball cans to represent, the old air systems, for tubes and stuff. And there'd be an assembly line where people would rip the documents, stamp them, and then staple them back together and put them together. And we did that play, and I, wrote the songs, and I co-wrote it with somebody. And then we did Larry. We actually
have Larry on cassette still. I love it. Yeah,
don't tell anyone. We did an homage to a friend who, for legal reasons, I can't tell you what his first name is. Basically, we inverted the concept of Tommy, and it was a little bit based on Janice Ian's short story of a teen child prodigy folk singer. And we thought, like, what happens to brilliant children when they become mediocre adults? And so we kind of portrayed the story of this wunderkid social protest singer who like just sells out and goes completely evil.
Bob, I got to ask you, and I got to go pretty soon, but I need Rob to hook us up because we got some gossip.
We'll let Dan just stay for a minute. We'll do all that.
I'll talk to you about what we talked about.
One thing I'll say too is I've always said experience. Go on, Chaz. What did you want to say?
I just want to ask Bob. There was another guy who was friends with some of these guys we're talking about. Who I don't know if he's still kicking, but he worked in a hotel and he was a Mark
Steve
Boland,
McAvoy.
Steve Mac. Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah,
one
Steve
thing I've
Dorada.
always said, one thing like we've talked about, I think the worst jobs I've ever had involved customer service. But I think a lot of people, they should get around, do like a temp job, do something just so they have the empathy of how crappy some of them are.
Yeah. Well, I'm still interested in theater, and I'm trying to write something now. The Sulzberger family owns the New York Times, has a children's theater in Times Square, and the coin dropped where, before the pandemic, they have schools coming in and out. It's like, here's where the money is. So I've got this idea. It's kind of a combination of Alice in Wonderland and Pink Floyd, The Wall, because I think schools are really brutal and evil. But what I've noticed is our children find ways to find love, be humane, despite what we do to them. So I'm going to write this dark.
They do. They grow out. They grow through the cracks in the concrete like little flowers.
Exactly.
Well, there you have an actor right here.
Ironic.
If you ever want somebody with like, you think Pat would fit in, you have somebody for a role.
Don't really fit into anything, but
I noticed
Bob
this that
I guarantee you could make something for Pat perfectly, like something that would be perfect for him. You have that personality.
Yeah, well, it's what it is. I write a lot. I write daily, and theater is just one way to put like all your songs together. I mean, I write like conceptually, like this thing, and I intend to do more. And it was probably the greatest creative moment of my life. The two shows that we did Larry and Marcia Tape Specialist, and I always intended to do more. But you kind of get sick because I don't know if Rochester's like this, but Portland is full of like passive aggressive people, and you have like people like not showing up for the show who are in the show, and you finally get sick of this shit, and you're just
you might actually be good. We're actually going to have a director who's going to have her foreign film it's called Lapwing. She's going to be on the show before it's released in America. You might be good as a co-host for that because you bring that perspective.
Oh, well, thanks. I'm flattered.
I'll tell you, obviously she's in London, so we got to do the time difference. All I can do is tell you when we get her on. And,
I'm happy to be part of the circle jerk here. I think it's great that we'll stay in touch, It's whatever you guys want.
Join the band. Like, that's what I'm like, becoming like Robin Hood. Join our merry men. Join our team. Everything else for better. But thanks, man. Thanks a lot. We could probably go on. You taking your Viagra pills? I
am. I don't know what I'm going to be doing next.
Well, you've always been interesting, and
I'll be ready for it.
I've always said
Since
my death last year, I just say it too many times. I certainly appreciate everybody in life, and I'm glad we've been able to stay in touch through the decades.
The women I work with say, you seem to put a lot of effort into trying to be interesting. So it's not a bad effort.
That is the backhanded-ass compliment I've ever heard.
It's a passive-aggressive world, bitches.
It's
But on that,
skill that
I
people
want to talk to Pat briefly afterwards. If we can play a song, it's up to him. He's the maestro.
As long as I have a file, it is a format that can be played on a computer. Then I can pop it on the end of this.
Yeah, you could.
Very cool. So
or if there's a place I can go, I can grab it, or however you want to do it.
I can tell you where to go.
Okay.
There's it's.
Well, hey, let's do a plug, and while you're plugging, I will.
We'll talk after the show's over. Just tell us the album where we can get it and everything.
The album's called ENKA. You could play a song called Genki. Have you guys ever heard the Japanese word Genki? It's how the Japanese people greet each other on,
It's
every
Spock,
day.
man. You could do the Spock thing. Cool.
And Genki just kind of means, are you vigorous? Are you energetic?
No.
And
Oh, I
so
like
it's
it.
this, it's, oh, Genki desu ka? Are you energetic today? And that's like the first thing you hear in Japan. So I wrote a song about that, and it's just kind of this like cultish idea of like, yeah, I'm energetic, because the Japanese love that kind of high enthusiasm. And then I paid some Nigerian $5 on Fiverr to do a supercut of all these like Japanese prepubescent pedophile cartoons, like everybody like being like really excited and exotic. So this is a video podcast, right?
It's all audio. It's all
Definitely
audio.
not, thank God.
All right. So you can play Genki, and it has this like Genki skank section at the end.
Okay.
But
I do know what that
uh,
means, actually, because we had my one friend's in the ska band. He explained what skanking was. It was the dance. That's what they called it, so I know that. But very cool
I
to
don't
have
know
you,
that.
man. You'll have to come back soon.
All right. I think I've been banned by Patrick, but it's
You have not been banned by me.
That's what all passive aggressive motherfuckers
Hey, you
say.
guys.
And then you get
All
right.
Very cool.
There might be
Stay
some.
in touch, but just stay on for a second, and then we tell me when we're done.
Chaz,
all right.
I'll connect with you. Chaz, I'll talk with you on Face Crack in a second, okay?
Alrighty.
you know what? I gotta do it a different way. I gotta go, but we gotta
Okay.
trade some gossip. So I'll
Okay.
have Rob
Talk
put
to
us
you.
in touch with each other
Okay.
for sure.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
You want to talk with them or anything like that?
All
And I'm
right.
glad you like doing this, man. We'll have,
We
I
haven't
didn't-
stopped
I
yet.
didn't-
Hey, let's
I didn't
sign
say
off.
that.
Let's do
I
an
didn't
official
say
sign
that.
off because I never know when to stop this. So,
All right. In Japanese, we've worked hard, haven't we? Let's go to some of this stuff. Hey.
Yanked from bed by your handle, without the work in those shoes. Now there ain't no sleep nor depression can get to you. You're Genki, Genki all day. She's Genki, she says, are you Genki? They ask, we're Genki all in. Genki all day. She's Genki, she says, are you Genki? They ask, we're Genki all in. Over the cement-lined rivers, under polluted skies that don't hurt, smiling as time goes clicking by. Genki till you're food for worms. With a little more effort, that will surely go unrecognized. Find the pleasure in doing it together in this very social exercise. Genki all day, she's Genki, she says, are you Genki? They ask, we're Genki all in. Genki all day, she's Genki, she says, are you Genki? They ask, we're Genki all in. I've never been Genki, feel it coming down. Dancing around the darkness in this Yokohama spot. Never been Genki, feel it coming down. Dancing around the darkness in this Yokohama spot.
we are the Architects of Entropy, a collaborative world-building tabletop role-playing actual play podcast. In other words, my friends and I create exciting, weird worlds and then we play in them. Join us for our introductory story as we play Dungeons and Dragons in a homebrew high fantasy world populated with dwarves, elves, fairies, and anthropomorphic weasels. What's going to happen next? We have no idea. Join us and find out. Architects of Entropy.
a podcast.